Welcome to Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers, hosted by Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Squirrel. I'm Jody L. Milner.
And I'm Candace.
And we are still in New Year joy.
Sure.
And we are talking today all about writing or starting a new project.
Yes.
So this is...
Which I have plenty of experience on because I've started so many. They're all started and not finished. So
it's a little scary to start something new.
Yeah.
Right? And so I wanted to think through what are some of these challenges that it's like I want to do this thing, but I'm afraid of this or that. And so some of the challenges that I identified with starting a new project, one of it is just facing the unknown. Like there's so many things that haven't been figured out yet. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's really daunting because if you've done big projects before, diving into a new one where you have all of these things you know you need to figure out, it's like you've just been given a workbook that's the size of a toddler and you have to fill out the whole thing. And that feels like work. It feels like a lot of work. And so I want to bring more joy into that creative process. But you also need to become familiar with your new characters. Yeah. You need to get to know them really well. You need to figure out how your setting works. You need to pin down how your plot works. And there's also this fear that you're going to mess it up and you're going to get it wrong. And you're going to maybe waste a lot of time because you had a brilliant idea that ended up not being a great idea.
Yeah.
So for you, what kind of challenges and fears did you identify?
Well, just knowing how to start. Like I think that it's just scary to just start your first sentence. And I think that I put a quote from Stephen King on writing. The scariest moment is always just before you start. You can, you should, and if you're brave enough to start, you will. Description begins in the writer's imagination, but should finish in the reader's. I thought that was really great.
That's a really good quote.
He does have a good point that it's just hard to figure out that first sentence, to get one thing down. You know, that's the hardest thing for me. And you're right on the world building, understanding all of the world building. And that sometimes can get a little irritating to say the least, in figuring out all of those grainy details. Sometimes I skip that part of world building because I'm like, I just want to get into the story so bad, you know, but then I have to go back and figure out those details later. And that's not really probably the most productive. If you know those details before, you know, how your world works, then you don't have to do all those things. I think that also people are afraid, or I'm afraid of doing things wrong. As you said, or doing things different than other people. We all have to find our own rhythm and how the story speaks to us and how we need to type it out, our voice. And sometimes we want to mimic what other people have done. And we're not following our own strengths. So the way that you write is very different from the way that I write. And I've had to learn my own way of starting a project to cater to my own, like how my brain works, my organization, my my whole Google file, you know, that I build, is I know different from what you do. It's good to get, I think, influence from other people on what they do and maybe try out some stuff on when you're starting a story. But I don't know, you have to find your own way of doing things, you know, and it's hard. It's hard to find that your balance and your rhythm and the lyrics that you follow when it comes to writing. So yeah, that's when I'm starting a story, I'm always really worried about making those mistakes and just the fear of the first sentence. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So
you've now done several successful projects.
Yes.
But you've also had a lot of false starts, and
Yes.
so you, like you said, you've done a lot of introducing, like figuring out a new thing and starting a new thing. How do you generally feel when you start these new things?
I'm always excited. I'm always excited to jump into a new story. And we talked about this several episodes about the murky middle and finding and trying to move on. So a lot of my stories that I haven't finished are right at that cusp of I need to figure out the rest of the story. But I'm always really excited. I am pretty relaxed about when I start a story. So even though I fear the first sentence, I also know that probably it won't end up in my finished novel. So I'm not, I give it a lot of thought, but I don't fret on the little details when I first start a story. I just kind of let the liquid in my brain drain out of me into my fingers and let it go.
That sounds gross.
No, it sounds beautiful.
Cerebral spinal fluid on the page.
That's how you think of it. I'm thinking of it a honey. It's honey dripping down my fingers and making
that's the high sugar
things.
Consumption. Got
Yes.
it.
It's maple syrup that I'm putting out on my fingers. That's exactly it.
So for me, new projects, lately they've come with a lot of, like, there's that shiny idea and there's that excitement there, but there's this heavy anxiety because I feel like I've done all of these projects so far that while I've enjoyed doing them, they've always ended up being harder than when I initially started. And so starting something new is just like, I know I'm going to be facing something that's going to be really difficult. And so there's always this anxiety of, am I making the right decisions off the bat so it's not as difficult? And there's no guarantee that any of those decisions I'm making or any of these little plot points I'm figuring out actually make sense in the long run the way I thought they did when I originally thought of them.
Yeah, and the going off what if you said, we've both finished series. We have a finished series, and finishing a series is hard work.
Oh man.
And so the thought of doing a new series, which I have plenty of ideas of for a new fantasy series, is overwhelming. Yeah, exactly. I totally get what you mean. I'm afraid to start a new series.
And so I've been counseled to maybe do a couple standalones first before diving into something big again.
I've
At the
done
same
that. That's
time,
what I did.
I'm like, if I'm going to commit to one idea and one world and one set of characters, I kind of want to stay with them for a bunch of books too. And so I'm torn.
Characters are fun. I like finding out more about the characters when I first start as well. That's one of my favorite things is just learning more about these characters and what they're going to do.
Learning about your imaginary friends.
Yeah, exactly. I'm asking this.
Yes.
What are some things that you do to get? What's your prep look like? What do you get ready when you're starting a new story?
So back when I was a baby writer, I didn't understand what prep meant. And so I would have a random...
Well, because there wasn't a prep.
Well, there was no understanding of how things were supposed to work.
No, I have a story. I'm just going to start writing. And you're like, oh, well, maybe I need a map. Oh, maybe I need a character sketch.
And you keep running into I need. Yes, and so it used to be, I would have a singular idea for a singular scene and just more of an emotional punch that I wanted to have happen. I didn't know the setting. I didn't know the characters. I didn't know the before and the after. And so I'd be like, ooh, shiny. It was highly indulgent writing. It was it was scratching the itch, but it was not creating a product. Mm-hmm. And it's been crazy. So now I plan a lot more beforehand and I spend time to try to address what kind of map do I need? What kind of world do I want to build? And what do I need to know about that world so I don't have to stop and figure it out as I'm writing?
Yeah.
The names of the streets or the major routes between major... if you have a questy kind of story, you do need to know the names of the routes because there's going to be names of these, what is the name of your caravan route the road or the...
Well, and when you're world building, which we can do a whole episode on, just a quick one. I mean, you need to go government, religion, mythology, all the things, how the kingdom works.
Yeah. Like
All
how
that
the
stuff.
currency works.
Yeah.
Like all those are little things you got to pin down. And so I do spend more time figuring that stuff out, because stopping to figure it out while you're like, ooh, I have this cool scene. Like, it sucks to be like, oh, I need a name of a road here. Mm-hmm. And then everything stops and you have to figure out the name of the road. Next thing you know, you're in a click hole where you're discovering the names of the pillars in Greece. And you're like, this is not where I was going.
Yeah, no. I'm going to get specific on the things that I get ready. So, I mean, as I said before, I start a Google Drive with the project's name. And this is where I can stash all the things that I need. Like, I currently am writing a rom-com in New York, so I have the metro map in my folder so that I can route where they're going and whatever. I like to buy a notebook. Look, I have.
Oh,
I
that's
brought.
so cute.
I brought a show and tell for everyone that can't see this. It's my cat notebook that has all of my first thoughts. So I buy it's just a little journal that has random thoughts. When I start a project, I buy it, and it's just its own thing. And I keep it with me wherever I go. I put it in my purse, so if I come up with any ideas, or even if I'm writing a scene and I have to leave that scene, maybe I can finish it while I'm on my break or something. So I always keep just a book, a little notebook that I can add these details later, because I don't want the creativity to slip away. I want it to be that when it's there and present, I need to document it. And that's one of the reasons why I have a Google Drive with like my working manuscript and all of the other things that I need in there, all the links to different places,
your resources and everything.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. So I can make it as easy as possible and as accessible as possible. So let's say we're at a family function that you don't want to be part of the big, talk about, I don't know, government or something. And so you walk away and you need to get out your creativity, do some brain melting to get away from that kind of talk.
That was your Thanksgiving.
I know I'm not really, basing this on a real situation, but it's always good to have an option to go and write in the moment's notice.
Oh yeah,
So.
And I love keeping things on my phone because I know I'm always going to have my phone. Mm-hmm. And so I have sneaky little places
I
where
had to take my cat to the vet the other day.
Perfect.
And yeah, he had an abscess that needed to be drained.
Lovely.
Oh, poor kitty. He's the stupidest cat ever. So he had to get this abscess drained. And I was in there for a while just waiting for all that to happen. So yeah,
and
I
as
was
the
on
vet tech here.
I was on my phone.
Abscesses are kind of fun.
Doing something. Abscesses are gross.
They're weirdly satisfying.
This is very squirrely.
Okay, we're coming back now. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Adri lives in Chicago. Simon is in Portland. Neither know each other in the daylight, but at night, in their dreams, they are soulmates. When an embarrassing moment throws Adri into fast clickbait, it's just the lifeline Simon needs to find the girl of his dreams. Called Sleepless in Seattle in Dreams, this audiobook is like listening to your favorite Hallmark movie. Enjoy To Dream in Daylight by Candace J. Thomas on Audible and iTunes.
Oh, goodness. And so we're coming back to talking about how do you go about creating main characters? Because if you don't have a really good feel for that main character, it's really hard to have that character drive the story. And so for me, when I make a main character, like first I come up with kind of the personality traits that I feel they're going to need. And sometimes I don't know what the story's about yet, but I need to have a character that's going to create a story. Mm-hmm. Like if it's a character-driven story, a lot of times I'll try to create a really cool character first and see if a story will start growing from that character creation. And that is kind of this natural genesis, which is really nice. And so I'll come up with some traits. But the thing that I do, and it feels like cheating,
Okay.
but I like it.
Cheating?
No cheating. It's bending the rules.
Are you doing like an RPG campaign with this character?
Yes.
Is that the cheat?
So I'll think of these traits, and then I will allow myself to fill in like if you wanted someone that was really strong but like quiet, I'm like, oh, 007. Like I would find a real life example of someone that embodies those traits.
Okay.
Just so I can have a better picture to visualize what that person, like as a completed character, would look like.
Okay.
And then I'd find someone else that matches some of the other traits that I need. And then I'll mash the two characters together and create something new. And so it's like on the outside, it looks like this specific character, but on the inside, it's more like this character. And so you create this new thing. And so when you're trying to get in the head of that character, it's just that much easier to kind of figure out how they would react to the situation, how they would speak, what they would wear. Like it starts filling in the blanks in a way that my brain likes a little bit better than having a blank sheet and random prompts.
Right. You're a visual person.
Like I need it to be visual.
And that, I don't think that's cheating. I think that's lovely.
And
do you do a Pinterest board on this?
I have off and on done Pinterest boards because the visual aspect is really nice.
Yeah. I do that for my settings and stuff, but I don't think I've ever done it for my characters. So this question is a little hard for me to answer because I can fill in as many details as I want, but the moment that the character starts speaking to me, things change. So I have to have a little fluidity to it. So I will, I call it, once I'm ankle deep, which only gives me a few chapters, honestly. But by then I need to go back to what I originally created and see where, if it still matches the character or what, and then I can fill in from what I've already created and adapt the character I have now. So that's more of my character when I do specifically a main character. Like the sub characters, they're just like fluffy to do. I give them substance, but it's not as important as the main character, right? Our main character has to hold everything together,
which I think makes them harder to create.
Yeah, and I think and develop, right? Because I can't. Being Discovery, I have to get to know my character. I need to know superficial things about, whoever they are, them, but I can't know all the inners and outers of how they work and think, because that comes and evolves as the story comes and evolves to me.
And I'm not that patient, but I did that with like all of Shadow Barrier. I had no idea who Katira was for the whole thing. And I'm just like, I'm going to make sure she works on the page, but she never revealed herself to me. And so that felt very frustrating for the whole time. And then I'd have these side characters that I'd just be like, it's a one-off.
It's so easy.
It's like this guy. And like they would come alive really easy. And it was a joy to write them because there wasn't the pressure of making them exactly everything perfect that the story needs. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, but why can't I do that for my main character? Why can't I have that same experience? And it's the pressure. It's the pressure of getting your main character right.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to get that idea faster from the outset, just so the writing is more of a joy and not more of a, I think I'm messing this up.
I do tend to like to find the flaws in my main character because that's what
makes them fun.
Yeah, when I'm first writing them, they not that they don't have their problems, but I need to look at them. I look at them almost perfectly, but then I need to ask the questions: where's this story? Why are you afraid of this? Or why do you not want to do this? And in order to get a better feel of their decision making, Yeah. Oh my gosh. Characters are the main characters can be time consuming.
Yeah. So have you received good advice on how to start new projects?
As I said with the Stephen King, is the scariest part is just starting. So I think that we put a lot of pressure on us to make sure that the beginning is right. But the fact is that the beginning probably won't even end up in your story.
No, famously.
Right? I thought I had the perfect... So I went to this conference years before I was published, and we had to give the first page to be critiqued by authors. And the authors that I had were Dan Wells and Shannon Hale. And they were
no
looking...
pressure.
Yeah, right? They're looking over my first like just my first page of my first chapter, the very beginning. And like I start out with an axe in a pig's neck. All right. That happened in the very first chapter of my Vivatira story. That is not in my book, if you notice. But it was like getting, specifically Shannon's reaction. She was like, oh, that's really horrifying. That starts off the book very deep. And I thought that that's what I needed. I thought I needed to grab the audience and stuff. But what that first chapter was actually for was for me, for setting up the rest of the story. So I understood a little bit more of the world that I put my characters in. It wasn't necessarily for anyone else to read, but it was for me. And I think that if you think about that, then it might lessen that pressure that you feel that you need to get things perfectly the first time. You're going to go through the book several times, and you will eventually have a beautiful product. You're not going to have that beautiful product the first time you write it.
Nope.
So, and maybe understanding that might relieve some of the pressure of getting things perfect as well.
Know that you're going to rewrite your first chapter probably 6 or 7 times.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And
you
don't
might
be afraid
actually
to
throw
axe
away
it.
the first chapter or the first 2 chapters because you walk up to the scene like I do.
I don't even know. I cut so many chapters from my first novel.
Sure.
Because
learning experience.
My publisher's like, this doesn't carry the story at all. So there's no reason to have this chapter.
I chopped a book out of my first book. It's sitting on a shelf. It's in a drawer somewhere.
That's very good.
Poor Elon.
What about you?
So the best advice I ever got when starting a new project is a lot of it's not sweat the small stuff. Get the idea of the thing you need to write, but then just go and let the story come out without stopping to go back and fix things or go back and tweak or go back and change a sentence or erase the same sentence 47 times before you keep the one that you wrote the first time.
Right.
Just write out the whole scene. Like get to the end of a scene, get to the end of the chapter before you go back and tweak things. Because chances are the first thing you wrote is probably not that bad. And then afterwards, maybe you can go back. But finish an entire something before having that urge to go back and tweak and fix because it wasn't perfect the first try. Because if you keep on reinventing the same sentence, you won't make progress.
That's awesome. So on that line, what's your, solutions, your practical advice?
Practical advice,
sure.
Write messy.
Write messy.
Write messy. So I think we've done the Miss Frizzle It before.
Yes, Miss
Frizzle It.
All the way.
I think Anne Lamont is write an Essie first draft. We have to keep this non-explicit. So,
okay.
Write a not poopy first draft, or write a poopy first draft. That's going on a T-shirt. Before you start, take time to get familiar with the important stuff, but also do fun stuff. Like, if you are a visual creator, have fun making a Pinterest board full of your inspirational stuff, of your settings, of your characters, of your ideas, of things that you really liked from other things. Like, have fun with coming up with these things and get all charged with this energy of I'm going to make something that I love.
Yeah. Keep the energy.
Energy is important.
Yeah. Because when you start a story, you just have so much excitement for this and you want to share it with a lot of people. Like I would always go, Mom, you got to read this. And it's good to have a cheerleader section, but it's also it's important for you to stay excited about the project. Get to a point where you can start that excitement again, you know. And if you need to step away, maybe look at, I love the Pinterest idea. I find all my fantasy pictures there.
It's an amazing resource.
Yeah, so you can, it's also very engaging for the readers as well, because they can go and see what you envisioned for your worlds and stuff. So yeah, just keep up that excitement. Eat chocolate, have caffeine, keep going.
Reward yourself for every small success.
Yes, that's lovely.
Absolutely.
Good. I'll put that on a t-shirt.
That's probably better than the other.
The non-poopy. Really?
All right.
Good.
Know that there's no right or wrong way to do this. Do what feels comfortable to you. If you've liked some of the things we've shared, please give them a try. Have fun with this. The more time you put into your work and the more things you try, the better understanding you'll get about how you work best. And so you got this. Go for it.
My final thoughts here and my final encouragement is I can't wait to read it. So if I'm excited to read it, because I love young writing and fresh writing, if you need a cheerleader, you can absolutely contact me because I love to read new stuff. So there you go. Yay.
Yay. Thanks for listening, everybody. Next week, it's an idea that we've been passing around for like 2 months now.
2 months? No. This is from June when we decided to do this. I wanted to do an episode on hair. Absolutely. Because I'll talk more about that when I'll leave you hanging because I got lots of thoughts about this. So
it's going to get hairy.
Yes, definitely.
Don't forget, we do have a Patreon. And if you've liked anything you've heard today and you would love to give us a little something for our digital tip jar, head over to Buy Us a Coffee because your support means the world to us. As always, this has been Squirrel. And have a wonderful writing experience.
Good luck on all your writing adventures. Thank you for listening to the Squirrel Podcast for the Distracted Writer with Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. This episode was recorded at the Farmhouse Recording Studio. Please like and subscribe to our podcast for updates and new episodes, and find more information at our website, squirrelpodcast.com. Stay distracted, everyone. Yeah, you and your outlines. I will try to follow your outlines, but I'm not an outline person. Well, I do. I love outlines, but I'm not like detailed.
I love that you say that you're not an outline person.
I love bullet
points.
Here we are. I do love bullet points, but this is your outline is a little. You were very factual. You put everything down.
I like to think through what I'm going to say.
Well, and that's good. That's great. And being
spontaneous
I'm more like
makes me sound
cuff.
goofy.